Let's go to the next scenario, and this is for you, Larry.
Okay.
This may come up somewhat similar to what we've talked about here, but assume as a parent you have a gay son and his boyfriend are wanting to come visit and want to sleep in the same room while visiting you. How should we respond to this situation as Christians, again, balancing love, truth, and biblical convictions?
Yeah, and I think it is very similar to some of the discussion that we just had, because I'm going to say that the bottom line answer is that you should not allow them to do that. And I think that because you're being asked essentially to, at the very least, facilitate their relationship, if not approve of their relationship, which is a sinful relationship. And so, as Christians, we're supposed to not only avoid sinning ourselves, but we're also supposed to avoid helping others to sin.
Right.
Facilitating sin is not something that we're allowed to do. Again, like we said in the marriage discussion, it's not loving to help a person continue to rebel against God. And the Bible has very strong words for people who do that, right? It says, Isaiah 5:20, woe to those who call evil good and good evil, who put darkness for light and light for darkness, who put bitter for sweet and sweet for bitter. And so again, going kind of back to our marriage discussion, I think we sometimes forget how serious this is, right? What marriage represents and what the sexual activity within marriage, which is good and right and beautiful and was designed by God, is meant to do. It's meant to represent Christ and His church. It is meant to be a means through which more image bearers are created, the creation mandate, all of those things. And so when you take the sexual relationship out of that context and you put it in another context, particularly one between two people of the same gender, then you are essentially blaspheming God, blaspheming Christ. And so I would not want to put myself in a position of helping to facilitate that. It says in Romans 1:32, and this is a passage where Paul has dealt with homosexuality. Though they know God's righteous decree that those who practice such things deserve to die, they not only do them, but give approval to those who practice them. So again, I would say this is like the wedding thing. You would be sinning if you facilitated this. So
would there be a difference if it was your son and his boyfriend, or if it was your son and his husband?
Or your son and his girlfriend?
I don't think it would.
I agree with you.
Right.
I just want to make it sure. Or your son and his girlfriend.
Well, I think in all cases you should say, no, you can't share
Correct.
a bed in our home. And no, it doesn't make a difference if it's two men that claim to be married versus two men who are just in a relationship, because that's really not a marriage.
That's correct.
I like how
as we
you said
talked about.
claim to be married, because we do not, that's another thing. We cannot give up on that.
Right.
Marriage
And
isn't
give
from the
in.
state. Marriage is from
Correct.
God.
Yeah, and
Right.
give in and start calling that a marriage. I think that's going to be an offensive thing for
In and
many
of
of
itself.
us in and of
Yeah,
itself,
yeah.
is just basically saying, I don't believe that this is a marriage.
Right. And something people don't talk about too much, because I think it gets into some, delicate areas when you do, but it is not possible for two men or two women to become one flesh.
It's not.
It's not possible physically for that to happen. A marriage like that cannot be consummated, is the way it
correct.
used to be described. So,
Here's it.
okay.
But assuming you're the dad, but Dad, it's not like we're going to engage in sex. We only have one bedroom and there's only one bed. We're just going to do that. We're just going to sleep and we're not going to touch
we've
each other.
We've still got the air mattress. Okay. So I would, even if they're telling you we're not going to engage in sexual behavior, sharing the bed is a level of intimacy that is not allowed between two men or a man and a woman who aren't married.
That's
I wouldn't
correct.
do that for a man and a woman.
That's right.
Who weren't married to each
we're
other.
not going to have sex in the bed. Well, right. Yeah.
Doesn't matter. That's the point.
Right,
It doesn't
really matter.
matter. It's
Right.
what it implies.
Right, what it implies. And so what should you do? Again, with the marriage thing, I think you should say, you and your friend are both welcome to spend Christmas with us or whatever it is under these circumstances. And, they may accept that. They probably know how you feel already.
They should.
They should. You've done something wrong if they don't, right? They should probably, and then you have to let the chips fall where
They might get a hotel
Right.
instead, and which would be more distant than
And
a
then
roof,
come-
or they
and-
might not come at all.
Correct.
Again, we might pay the price.
Again, you do the right thing and you leave the results to God.
But I think the key is you've created a clear line of right from wrong. If you acquiesce in the name of trying to reach them with the gospel, you've actually eradicated a level of understanding of right from wrong because you haven't taken the stand. So this is much more than a holiday at the house. This is the potential for this person to have a homecoming to the God who created them, that if you blur that line, you condemn them to think it's somehow appropriate or right.
You're helping them justify their sin.
Yeah.
And I think, and perhaps when
And the
you're
gospel's
talking
not
to
about
them-
justifying your sin. It's
No,
repenting
not.
of it.
Yeah.
Right.
And there's got to be a sense in which this should not be the first conversation that you have with
Yeah,
your
hopefully it's
child.
not.
no
Hopefully it's
doubt.
not.
Yeah.
Right. But and I think you do approach it from a gospel perspective. You say, we love you too much to let you to do that. We want you to repent. We want you to turn to Christ. We don't want to do anything that says to you that the way you're living now is okay.
And understand, in our world, there's so many different times in which the world doesn't do this. For example, drug users, Philadelphia. Let's make sure they have clean needles.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's the
a
idea
similar
of-
principle. I
Yeah,
mean,
so let's facilitate something that's killing you, that's showing
So
you're
it'll
not
kill you more
valid.
slowly,
Yeah, you're
right?
not valid. And people go, well, but if you don't do that, they might kill themselves. And go, here's the deal. I'm responsible for what I do, not for what they do. So therefore, if they choose to take that action, that's on them. I can't say you're valuable and precious. Oh, by the
here's a
way,
clean
here's a needle.
Right.
Yeah, and so the idea, and being a Philadelphia family, part of the family, you just go, that's absolutely ridiculous. It doesn't work. But that's the world people live in, so they think the Christian should accommodate it.
Well, and that goes back to what is love. Love is making the person feel good.
Yeah.
And no, it's not. It's speaking truthfully to them, and then not determining whether or not you love them based on how they respond.
And there's a sense that you're held hostage by what someone might do, right? I mean, I think that's one of the arguments that we've heard before is, well, if you don't do this, that person could end up killing themselves. And so you're being forced to choose, do I say no or do I allow them to kill themselves? So how do you navigate that kind of response or mechanism?
Or we can't, if you don't let us stay together in the same bedroom, then this is the last Christmas you'll see us.
Right,
I mean, that's
Blackmail.
That's emotional blackmail.
Emotional blackmail.
It's emotional blackmail.
I think it's a mature understanding of a victimhood culture. That people don't take personal responsibility, but they can blame somebody else. Next generation is, oh, since you won't do this, then I'll do this. So first of all, I'm not to be held responsible. It's because of the way I was brought up or what this person said to me or the environment that I was in. When that matures, it comes to the point that I not only believe that myself, but I actually hold you accountable. If you do this, I proactively say, if you do this, then I'm going to do this. So now all of a sudden, not only are you a victim, but you're a professional victim. You're starting to manipulate. And we see this actually in our country today where people go, this is what you're doing. I'm going to go to a company and do a shakedown of the company because you're making us do this, or I hold you responsible for what happened 400 years ago.
Right, Rainbow
Wait a
Coalition.
minute here. All that stuff is an outgrowth of people not taking personal responsibility, and it grows up into being malformed, represented in all sorts of these cultural
Well, we know of
levels.
ministries that use that leverage, right? That if you don't affirm these people on their side, that they will end up killing themselves. And so our ministry is to help you see that it's okay to be
or
this
that
way.
they might reject the church if
Right.
you don't
Affirm them where they're at.
affirm them where they are. And
Yes, and a sincere pastor who's got a huge heart, who struggles with this understanding, can unwittingly lean into that
Oh, yeah.
and become manipulated, and his ministry will be destroyed.
Right.
So therefore, you have got to stand on the conviction of what is true, what you're responsible for, and you're not responsible for other people and how they might respond to it. Because if you start playing that game, eventually you will become somebody who does not represent God.
I think that it's important to not let your anger drive you in this.
Yeah.
For example, if a person does do emotional blackmail, that would be very angering, right? And so therefore I would respond by the silent treatment, not talking to that person for months, years, or whatever.
Yeah.
No, it's going to be incumbent upon me to take the stand that I'm taking and then do everything in my power to reconnect and maintain a connection, to communicate my love, to talk to that person, still try to be an influence, be in whatever I can to be Christ to them in any circumstance, but not cross the line that I can.
well, and in the end, the Holy Spirit may open their eyes
That's
and
right.
save them, and then they will look back and then they will say, "Man, you did the right thing, but you never gave up on me.
Never gave up on me."
And they won't have that story if they become a
If you
Christian,
capitulate,
right? If they become a Christian and then they look back and they were like, "My parents lied to me. They told me this was okay." Think about that scenario, right?
And I do think there's a distinction. Let's say let's say somebody who's lost, doesn't know Christ at all, there's a way you approach them, and I think Christ models that, giving them the truth in love. Then there's the religious lost, the person who goes to church all the time and they go, man, you guys are way too uptight. You guys need to just love people. And if they name the name of Christ, I bring much more heat with them.
That's a different scenario.
It's a different scenario because now they could be a make-believer. And that kind of confusion has run a lot of people shipwrecked. That somebody who's a pastor who now advocates for this view of sexuality, so somebody's born gay, and they become a Christian. Oh, so they're in the category of gay Christian. And so, yeah, they should be married because that's how God made them. And so therefore, as long as they're faithful in that, that's a biblical marriage. And we know of people like that. We would say...
We know people who are teaching that.
We know people who are teaching it. We know people that are near us.
Yeah.
And so the point is that we go, no. That person's wrong, that pastor, and he'll be held accountable to that. And you have to be clear with people on that this is sinful and wrong, and you'll be held accountable, because this is absolutely contrary, clearly and easily contrary to the Bible.
Paul specifically tells you to separate from such a person. If a person is naming the name of Christ and they are living in sexual sin, Paul says you shouldn't even eat with that person.
Right.
You shouldn't have. You should not.
It's completely different than a non-Christian.
Correct.
Totally. Yeah,
Correct.
very different.
Well, but I would say, Larry, if it's a situation where it's a family member, you're not going to be able to 100% cut yourself off from that person. You know, let's say your cousins and you're being invited to grandma's, right? Everybody's going.
Well, I think the bottom line there is you don't. When Paul was saying you don't eat with the person, you don't fellowship with the person as if they are a believer.
That's it.
Right? So you don't treat them like there's nothing wrong.
It's sitting at table with them in agreement. It's saying we're in fellowship where there's nothing going on. That's not the situation. It's a circumstance. If you're at grandma's house and you're there, it's going the extra mile to be friendly to that person, to be polite to that person, to talk to them, to ask them about their life, ask them what's going on, to show them that I don't have animosity towards you. I don't hate you. I love you. You're my family member. You're my cousin, and I consider you a friend or a cousin or whatever it might be. And you demonstrate that you're not going to do as the world would do and just cut it off and break, and you don't talk to each other for years and years. I think that's worse.
Yes, although I think there could be some circumstances where you would need to do that. If this person is advocating for their position continually, particularly if they're advocating for it as being in sync with Christianity and those kind of things, that's got to be dealt with forthrightly.
Yeah, there's a level of complexity. As much as it relies on you live at peace with all men.
Right.
But sometimes it doesn't. And if that person decides to give you the cold shoulder, that's up to them. But you're not going to acquiesce.
You don't have to chase after them necessarily.
That's right.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, good. So let's move this discussion maybe in a little bit different direction. And so Dan, here's a couple questions for you.